some of the songs, it's actually your vocal.
Yeah.
And at what point did you feel like comfortable to put your own vocal on these records?
That's a good ass question. I think like now.
Today I had the privilege of sitting down with Angrybaby. He went from making viral clips in his office cubicle to becoming a touring DJ in a year. His latest EP, Out of Office, doubles down on his next chapter. We spoke about his early beginnings and what life has been like lately. What's up, man?
What's up?
Here with Angrybaby,
What up?
Bay Area native out of Berkeley, California.
Yep.
How's it going today?
Doing well. Just moved down to LA, so
Congrats.
thank you. I'm going back up to SF actually probably after this.
Nice.
We get the rest of my stuff. I guess move it to my parents' house while I go to take a little trip to England, and then hopefully move down here totally by the end of the month. So,
Completely.
yeah.
I've been a fan of yours probably for a year now.
Mhm.
A year. I definitely like caught wind of you via social media. I think like a lot of people did. And you had a crazy year. You just released your latest EP, Out of Office.
Yep.
And I think just to give like people a little bit of background, a lot of your social media was driven from like you working in an office.
Yeah.
And can you like tell us a little bit about like what you were doing in your office? Like what was your actual title? What was your job?
This is actually really funny because I don't think I've ever
Reveal?
I don't think I've disclosed that side of it.
Okay.
I guess in a public, or I guess like semi-public
Yeah.
setting, which is actually really funny. But it's kind of I guess my most recent job that I sort of started to film and kind of, I guess like created that like 9 to 5 persona in was I actually was working as a transportation planner for the city of Berkeley.
Oh wow.
I was on the parking services team.
Okay.
So, not that I was going out to ticketing people's cars, but I worked behind the scenes, like with them.
So you were the ops, essentially.
Essentially, I was the feds. But I was a transportation planner for the city of Berkeley for about a year, and I think looking back on it, I remember like kind of strategically wanting to be put in that position or like wanting that job because I knew that that's not knocking any like government work, but like it's a slower pace than privatized like consulting or what I was doing before. And the reason why I wanted to do that was because like I wanted to do music and have enough time outside of work to be able to like pursue that. And so I think that really,
It was a premeditated idea.
Right.
Like you knew you were doing music for sure. And you were like, yo, I need a situation where I can have as much time as possible to do music.
yeah. And I honestly, like, I didn't think, like, I think like going into it, I had no intention of like, okay, this is the year I'm going to make this my full-time job. I really went into it like just being like, hey, I just want more time to like do the thing that I love.
Yeah.
With no sort of like, I need to do this as my job. It just kind of happened that way, and I'm extremely grateful.
You've told me a little bit of like your background of like playing classical music growing up. And music has always been a part of your life, and then in high school you started producing music. What made you actually go from playing classical piano to like, oh, I want to make beats on my laptop?
Oh, that's a great, oh man. I think I was at the age where, up until that point, I think like my parents were really the ones to be like, hey, you have to do classical piano. Like you have to, this is going to be a part of your life.
Yeah.
Shout out Asian moms. But, no, it was both my parents. But I think I got to the age where I was like, I kind of like started to like rebel a little bit. And I think with that, like, making and like producing music was like kind of like my way of being like, fuck you, mom and dad, like I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah.
And sort of I think I just got to the age where I was like, I want to do something like of my own on my own accord. And I think that like my friends were also kind of on that same wavelength because they were also like wanting to like rap and make beats, and I think they just really encouraged me to. We like encouraged each other to like really just like sit down, be creative, and make music.
But okay, so then high school,
Yeah.
Albany High.
Yes.
Fast forward to
Yes.
Boston University.
Yep.
What's the transition like going from making hip hop beats to dance music?
Oh man, I actually in college was like, I was like for the first 2 years like bought like or not even bought, like downloaded like a cracked version of Logic and was still trying to make like Bay Area hip hop beats in Boston.
Yeah.
I'm just like try to like do the same thing I did with my friends in high school, but with friends in college, and it just like wasn't hitting the same.
Mhm.
I was just kind of like, this is kind of whack. Like this isn't like the Bay Area energy. So I actually kind of stopped about halfway through college, just like music altogether,
Oh, really?
and was just like, yeah, like, you know, this is fun, but I'm not gonna actively pursue it. And it wasn't until like my junior year of college that I got introduced by a couple of friends to, oh my god, what's it called? The Big Booty mixes from Two Friends. I think it was by Two Friends.
Rare. No, I don't know that.
Okay, they were like these like SoundCloud mixes of like a bunch of bootlegs.
Fire.
And I just remember listening to those and be like, wait, dance music is kind of cool. Like I don't hate this.
Yeah.
And I think I slowly just like kind of dove a little deeper and deeper into dance music,
Mhm.
and eventually like bought Ableton and like just kind of like tried.
Yeah.
And it just like since then I was like, wait, this is, you know, way more producer centric. Like I can be the artist and the producer. Like I don't have to wait on rappers or, you know, or another person. Like I can just do this in the box. Like this is holistically mine.
Mhm.
And I think that's what really appealed to me about dance music in college, was that I could just do it all myself. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a long-winded.
No. I think it's like perfect, because when I listen to your music now, I think there's like influences that I hear, whether it be Rufus the Soul, to like Louis the Child,
Mm-hmm.
to Flume, and it's not just because your name is Angrybaby, but there is this like youthful exuberance and like brightness to your music. I know the influence, like, question is cliche, but what were some of the people that you were listening to that kind of formed what you're making now?
That's really funny that you mentioned Louis the Child and Flume, because those, I literally attribute both of them to like pretty much all of the music that I like has led me here.
Oh wow.
I think Flume was like the first, like, I guess like music and just like artist project that I was like standing super hard in terms of like production, like sort of like the tech, I guess mostly production, and just like trying to understand like how can this sound be made from like all of the same equipment that, you know, is available to everybody.
Because his sound design is like,
It's
it's
so
godlike.
Yeah.
It's like on some, like, I think it's the pretty side of like Skrillex.
Yes.
Like how crazy there and in depth it is.
Yeah.
Because when you listen to it, nothing about it is stock.
no.
Yeah.
I think that like I guess the way in which I guess like the way that I viewed it was that like I really wanted to just like try to just like scrape some game from his plate just to apply it to my own
For sure.
taste. And I think that's where, you know, I got for Flume, and then like Louis the Child, like I think that their, you know, whole like ethos of their project was to like mix hip hop and dance music. I thought that was so cool, and just really wanted to like study that.
Yeah. I noticed when I was going through your discography, there was like earlier EPs like Aquaterra and like, was it 4433?
Yeah.
And so listening to those, that's kind of where I got the Flume influence as far as like future bass. And then there was a transition, I want to say maybe 2022, where it was like very like a sharp turn into house.
Mm-hmm.
And what caused that?
So actually, that's wow. I'm just thinking of like Aquaterra, 4433. Just like thinking about those projects to what I'm making now is just like a wild turn.
Necessary though.
Right.
Because it's interesting, because yes, the genre of dance music is very different from those to what you're doing now, but there's remnants of these like brightness and these like ethereal sounds.
So I think to answer your question about sort of like that sharp turn was after like moving back from grad school to San Francisco, music wasn't really like in the cards in terms of like a profession or something that I like could do professionally, could make money at. So I was like, okay, I still want to try this. A bunch of my friends were DJing, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like I want to try and do that. Like that's a way to like,
play the music you're making.
Or not even that, just like to play music. Like I wasn't even playing the stuff that I was making. And it was through that where like I got my first taste of like actual like house music. And I kind of like, I could see in like the waveform, like, okay, here's like a 16 bar intro into a 16 bar break into like a 16 bar build. Like I saw how like dance music was then like actually structured and like what works on a dance floor, what works to like a crowd being played or what works to a crowd live. And I think that like, I just wanted to try that because it was something that it was so new to me at the time that I was like, I don't have an audience to like really cater to. Like, why not just have fun and like look up a Chris Lake tutorial on YouTube and like just try to emulate it. Like there's no I guess like there was no pressure at the time to like conform to like any specific genre for me. And so I think that's what I attribute to like that sort of sharp turn away from like the future bass-esque sound into more of like a 4 on the floor, like trying to have that like, I guess, a groovier side. Yeah.
Well, I think that's such an interesting thing for musicians is to understand there's when you're in a studio and you're just like free flowing creative ideas and just trying a bunch of things, and then when you go into the live space, sometimes that can encourage or like dictate what the future sound is because you see what reacts, what works, what doesn't work, and you're kind of like studying. And I think you being very observant of that is proof of why you're doing what you're doing now. And so that was one sharp turn. COVID happens.
Yep.
And you're making a bunch of social media like IG Reels or TikToks. And then I want to say it was February of 23. You make the one. You make the TikTok where you do this reaction to a hometown DJ putting your song, right?
Yep.
Prior to that, you're doing a bunch of similar TikToks, but that was the one that I noticed. I think that was the one that I saw you first at. And like, what made you go pick up the phone and start putting your music and like promoting it that way?
That's funny. I mean, I feel like I can't cap on this. Like, it truly was like my roommate. I think for the longest time, I was like so against just like social media, like putting music on social media, making music for social media. And I think, he literally came into my room one day. He's like a PR, works in PR. He was like on some account and was just like doing TikTok for his work. And he was like, hey man, like I really want to do it, like use you as a test case. Have you ever considered like putting your music on TikTok or like social media? And I was like,
And at what point is this? Like what time?
This is probably
like during COVID or right before?
This is after COVID.
So this is like 21, 22?
This is like late 2022.
Okay.
And he was like, or I was just like, no, like that's so cheesy, like no, that's so stupid, like really getting down on it.
Yeah.
Reluctantly, like posted a few videos. One of them got like 5,000 views, which at the time I was like, oh my god, like we've made it.
Yeah.
And that led me to like release like my song Embers, which did relatively well for like what I was normally like putting out at the time. And my current A&R actually like DM'd me because apparently that song like popped up on his Discover Weekly.
Oh wow.
And that's how it kind of got started. And then it wasn't until I signed to my current label that they were really encouraging, like, hey, like you should try to do content that isn't necessarily like, hey, here's my song, like you should go listen to it. More so like skits, kind of like funny stuff, like stuff I would make as like a kid making like a skate video.
Yeah.
And I think that they brought that radio idea to light, or to life, I should say. And I just kind of like ran with it.
Yeah, it's funny. Our previous conversation that we had was with Twee, who's an R&B singer from the East Bay.
Yeah.
And she, during like 2020, her manager told her to hop on TikTok, right? And her career has completely changed because of it, right? And it's interesting because I've had a conversation with a lot of artists and musicians, and it's very split. A lot of people feel like it's a chore, and a lot of people don't like the idea of doing social media. But I saw this one documentary about how musicians hated the music video in the 80s, and the idea of MTV, and the idea of VH1, and all that. And I think it's such a parallel to right now, because there's some artists that are like, wait, I have to make the music and be an actor in a music video? This is horrible. This is trash. And then now it's so like music videos are just hand in hand with your music, right? Yep. It's such a normal thing. And so I think musicians that are resistant to hopping on TikTok and IG and all that, I think they're getting left behind, truthfully. Because I think in the future, using TikTok or IG or whatever the platform is going to be such a regular thing for people, especially for younger kids now that are growing up on these like social media platforms. It's like, it's such just second nature to do that.
Totally. And I think, as like I think something to like, that I've just like tried to remember with that being said, like it is a tool.
Yes.
And like I feel like it's so unprecedented that like quite literally the, I guess like playing field has been leveled where like anybody can reach an audience now. Whereas before, like, I can't speak for like in the 80s or the pre-social media, like you had to know somebody.
You had to know somebody, or you had to go to open mics.
Right.
Friday night, lug all your gear around, and now you can blow up in your bedroom.
Right. And I think that that's just so wild, and that like, as an artist, I feel like very extremely grateful for that, and have to remember like, this is a very powerful tool that, can kind of get convoluted sometimes. Where you're like, oh my god, I have to post another video, but like keeping the mindset of like, no, I get to post another video and like potentially have a life-changing moment or like string of moments. So,
because from that one TikTok, that's like a year ago.
Yeah.
And how crazy his life has changed. Like, it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my buddies about how much of a fan I am of you, but also I feel like right now on TikTok and on IG Reels, there's a wave of you guys that I also, in addition to seeing that viral TikTok, I also got put on by Steve Cardigan, right? And for those who don't know, Steve Cardigan, he runs a platform called Put You On, and he's a tastemaker in the dance world. He has a bunch of playlists, and he's able to like curate this playlist with a bunch of new talent, right? And a lot of the new talent is coming from social media.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see, because I think musicians gain popularity and work when there's like a wave of them that you can like listen to as a soundtrack. So when I hear you, I also listen to Disco Lines, and I also listen to Bumped and Demo Tapes and Romy and 33 Below. And it's like there's like a soundtrack of new DJ producers that are coming, that I think when you win, I think the other guys are winning too, and it works like both ways. How do you feel like, not where you fit in, but how do you feel about being a part of that group of people?
I guess like first thing, or like first feeling, is like extremely honored that like, because a lot of people you name, like I was like fans of them before like any of this happened. And I think to just be even like put into the same category, like that's just extremely humbling. Yeah, because like, at the end of the day, like I'm a fan of music and a fan of those people. And I guess like where I fit in, like that's, yeah, I think that's that's so dope. I don't know, like it's just really nice.
It's really cool because I think speaking to about the level playing field is like we're seeing it in real time. People that may not have any connections to the music industry now being able to have a platform and be able to go on tour and everything like that. And you just got off tour with Disco Lines as his support.
Yep.
How was that? That's your first tour.
That was like the first tangible like tour experience. Like that was actually like one of the most fun times of my recent years. I think it was the first time that, you know, like I played a show it was the first like consistent string of shows that I played as Angrybaby that people came to specifically see me, that like I had never met or wasn't like a friend of a friend. And I remember like I think that was the first show of my first stop on the tour with Thad. We were in San Diego, and like I just remember this woman coming up to me, and she was like, your music like changed my life and like saved me. And I was like, whoa, like I never met the person, and that was like
Heavy.
Yeah, and I was like, that was just like a reminder to me of like, whoa, like what I make like can touch people in certain ways that like I could never even fathom. And I think that experience like really like rounded out the whole tour for me on the first stop. Like it reminded me of like why I want to do this. But other than that, just like, I mean, obviously like playing shows is really, really fun. So that was really like a ton of fun to just like go up there, like, a handful of times and just like really just.
I think one of the funniest things that I got from your experience, just like watching on my phone, was how you would go into your green room and the comparison between your writer to Disco Lines' writer, who's the headliner of the tour. And I think being support or opening for a tour is an interesting position to be in because it's very low pressure in the sense of like, I'm going out to grab new fans and be exposed to people. But what was your approach in going into this as your first tour?
So I think that's actually really interesting. I do equate it to like being almost like a backup quarterback, where it's like you have, maybe not a backup quarterback, but like you have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. And that what I think was my mindset going into it, where I'm like, I may be selling a few tickets here and there, but like right now it's to like it's to make Thad look good. Like that is in my mind, like that was the point of my role, was to like get everybody warmed up for Thad to put on a good show.
Yeah.
And I think like my mindset going into it was just like have fun, because this is like what I like dreamt of doing a year ago. And now that I'm here, it's like have fun, like don't overthink it, and just like be yourself. Because that is like I know that like sounds so obvious and cliche, but like it's the first time I didn't know how to act. I didn't know how to like move a crowd. Like I didn't know how to like get on the mic and like do all this. So it was, a really sort of like conscious effort to like be myself and to like have fun.
Yeah. And I guess that leads to like the next question is like, what were some of the things you learned from going out on the road for the first time, of like for performance wise as Angrybaby?
I gotta make edits of all my softer songs.
And that was funny. There's something that I noticed that you did an edit recently on Wasted on Me, and it made, when I saw that immediately, I was like, I wonder if he played that live and he felt like he wasn't getting the energy that he wanted.
Yeah.
And that's such an interesting thing. I think when you're going out on the road, is you're seeing the live experience of your music that you're making, right? And does that dictate what you're like doing now for your new music?
Yeah. So I think that like that whole touring experience is really informing what I'm making now for my like next, I guess, like project. And I'm really trying to lean a little more into like, I guess like harder isn't the right word. I think like bolder dance music than what I've been making is sort of the right term, where like I can play it live, and I know that like the kick is just gonna like smack you through the chest. Whereas I think before I was kind of like, yeah, like I want to make a melodically cool, or I guess like melodically cool song that you can like listen to, on your headphones. Like, I never intended to play any of those songs live.
Yeah.
And so obviously going through touring and playing live for people and seeing sort of how those songs reacted, it really has informed my decision making or decisions that I'm making and when I'm producing now.
I think that's something that's very charming about your music as well, is that there is this like, I don't want to say, it's not humorous, but it's like a lighthearted vibe where it's like, but I understand where like live you do want the pump of like smacking you in the chest when you're hearing it, but there is this like very pop sensibility to it.
And I don't want to lose that with, I think like the what I've been trying to do is not lose that sort of like innocence and like funness to the music while also trying to make it hard. So it's been like a fun puzzle challenge to like piece those together a little bit.
Oh yeah, and then can you play the original?
Yeah. Back to back, it's gonna be it. I guess I'll go straight to the
And you were playing this live on tour, just the original. Yeah. It's like, I love that, but I love just the learning.
Yeah. I mean, like, I listened to that, and then, like, I guess, like, the VIP of it, I'm like, whoa, these are completely different energies.
Yeah.
And, like, people still want to hear that.
For sure.
And so actually, I closed my crossed set out with the original.
The original, gotcha.
Yeah, so I want to bring it down. But, yeah, I think it's a, I listened to that, I'm like, whoa, what was I doing?
But see, I mean, I think it just speaks to the where you were. You just weren't even thinking about, I'm gonna go on tour and what's it gonna sound like and everything like that. But it's still a beautiful song.
That is a V1 demo.
Oh really?
Like I had no intention of ever putting that song out.
Oh wow.
And included it in like the demos that I had sent to the label, and they were like, "Yeah, that's a solid one."
That's the one.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, do you want any edits? And they're like, "No, like, sounds pretty good to us." And I'm like, "Okay."
Fire.
Like, sure. But no, I mean, it
worked.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And then so the EP that's on, that Wasted on Me, Hold You, Batter is all on the Regularity
Yes.
EP. What was the approach and like the difference in approach between going at that EP and then the new EP, Out of Office?
I think, the first EP, they were all like, those were all like finished songs that I like just included in like this like massive like dump of demos to the label, and it was just like, here's like what I'm working on, like, if you want to, I guess, like pick the ones that you like. Or I guess to my A&Rs, I went through and picked Wasted on Me, Hold You, Batter, Take Me Higher. And they were kind of like finished. Whereas with Out of Office, I was like still making it when like we were moving.
And shows started popping up.
Yeah. And so it was a much different experience to like run and gun than to just like have no like time pressure of just like, here are 5 finished songs, or like I have all the time in the world to make music. So I think Out of Office was like really like trying to balance work, trying to balance shows, trying to balance the timeline, or like the release schedule timeline. So it was like a lot more moving parts with Out of Office than with Regularity.
I Don't Want to Fall in Love sounds like the one that's sticking its head out to be like the front runner.
Yeah.
How did that song come about?
That was the demo. Like pretty much the entire song was made in like an hour.
Oh, wow.
where I found a splice loop. I had like made a, an analog-y kind of like plucky bass. And I was just like, this is, like a fun instrument just to like mess around with. Found like the top line on Splice after like 2 minutes of searching, and then like played a little like doom, or whatever the bass line is. Doom, doom, doom. And then I was like, oh, that's like kind of a vibe. And then just like built it out in an hour. And that's like essentially what what is on Spotify. But yeah, that kind of just like happened in an hour.
It's a big difference of energy, this new EP, Out of Office, from Regularity. And I wanted to ask, doing new shows and being on tour and moving to LA now and like doing the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you're in the vortex
Yes.
of what it is to be like a musician, artist on a label and all that. How do you find the balance of like creating while being out on the road every weekend kind of thing?
So that's actually, it's funny. I was just talking about that last night. I mean, it is, I still haven't figured it out. Like I am somebody that I need to like clear my mental schedule in order to like create effectively. Like if there's a sort of like any sort of like external temporal deadline, like, okay, you have the studio until 6 and then we're going to have to go and, we're going to have to go to the airport to like catch a flight up to a show. Like I can't effectively create. And I know that for some artists, they're like, I love that confined sort of like blocked out time. It makes me like make decisions really effectively and quickly. I found that I'm a bit of the opposite, where like I just need to like have an open-ended amount of time to just like create and have fun, because I think it then becomes a little monotonous and boring in my mind, where like I end up doing the same methodology when creating a song if I know that that methodology gets me to a end result quickly. And it gets boring. So I think to answer your question, to like balance all of that, I've like really been like forcing myself to just like keep exercising that creative muscle literally whenever I can. That could be like making a flip or making like an intro to a festival. It's just like, it doesn't even have to be like a song for a project or for an album, or it could just literally just be something that's music related in Ableton that I've just been like trying to just like keep exercising that muscle.
Yeah. And I noticed some of the songs, it's actually your vocal.
Yeah.
And at what point did you feel like comfortable to put your own vocal on these records?
That's a good ass question. I think like now, where like I like Wasted on Me is like my vocal. And at the time I was just like, I got like downloaded like a free version of like Autotune, or like an Autotune plugin, which I still use to this day. And was just like, I'm going to try and emulate Rufus Du Sol and like how they would sing this song. And, made my voice sound not like me, so I didn't have that weird, like, it sounds kind of ugly. I still think it sounds ugly. But I think that gave me the confidence to be like, okay, I can sing well enough, or like make my voice sound good enough to where people aren't listening to it and they're like, ooh, like bro doesn't know how to like, like, ooh. So I think now like is sort of like where I've gotten comfortable enough to put a song out that features my voice, that doesn't have like, isn't pitched down, or like I'm confident enough to put out like my voice. So that's kind of a recent-ish development.
Recent thing. And then I noticed sometimes for like dance, EDM, DJ producers, a lot of the creating process is by yourself. Whether it be you're like traveling, doing shows, or just in the studio by yourself, because these records can come out just you, right? So how do you like working with vocalists and having sessions with them? Like how have you learned to do that?
So that's actually relatively, I guess the whole concept of like a session is relatively new to me, because, the 5 to 8 years that I had been producing prior in some fashion or other, like, was just me. And so now that I'm like being put into a room with like maybe a songwriter and a vocalist, I'm like what, like, am I supposed to talk? Like it's an incredibly new experience. And I think it's taken me a little bit to adjust to that because I've been just doing it for so long. And I realized that, it's okay to like, just be like, hey, look, I only need like 8 bars. And to like, no, I don't need them to write an entire song. And so I think it's just getting comfortable with like expressing what I want or need as like a artist and a producer, and effectively communicating that to a top liner or another producer that's writing for my project. But yeah, definitely like still learning, like, for sure.
No, it's just cool just seeing like the evolution of, especially just in a year, of just like from Wasted on Me to now, and just like how it evolves with the more live shows you do. And speaking of live shows, you have an SF headline and an LA headline. LA is March 29th, and then SF is April 6th. SF sold out.
SF sold out.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's huge.
Yeah, I'm really like so stoked.
I think it's cool too, because I know you've done a few festivals in the past year, and then opening for disco lines. So it's like to have something of yours that is hard tickets is crazy. And it's important as like you develop. What can people expect?
I think, LA, I'm like really hyped about, because I think that to me is like, that is the first headline show, because it's on March 29th, SF is April 6th, so like LA is like, that's like where the proof, that's where that's my first headline show. So I'm like so hyped for that. I think San Francisco, I'm also like beyond the moon for that, but in a different way, because it's like home. It's at a club that I've been going to for years now, and it's with like a lot of my friends are coming, and that's like the first time that they're gonna see me as like that like headliner.
Yeah,
so I think that's
it's not like you're just DJing at some club this weekend. It's like, no, this is the Angrybaby show.
Right.
And while you're like creating these shows for yourself and these headline experiences, we've spoken about Rufus Du Sol, Flume, and all these people, and each of them have their own like identity when people go to see their shows. So have you been thinking about that for yourself, and like what does that look like?
So I think this sort of comes back to like the ethos of, I guess, like the Angrybaby project. And I think being a DJ, kind of being around that culture, and like having viewed it for as long as I have, like I found that there's like this like mystique around being a DJ, being an artist, where it's like there's a bit of inaccessibility, and I want like Angrybaby shows to be like you're with your homies, like you're with like come behind the DJ booth, like I don't care, like I think it's like what it comes down to for me is like the accessibility, like showing people that like, dude, like you can, like if you see me on the street, or if like you see me after the show, like let's go get a beer, like let's I don't want to ever be viewed as like this inaccessible DJ artist that
too cool.
Yeah. And I think that's like, that's kind of what it comes down to. So I think in terms of like a show, I think like, really it's like, I want the feeling of like, you're going with like your best friends to like, just rage. I don't know, like rage, but in like not like in a positive way. I guess that's like the way that I'm envisioning it. I think, it really comes down to accessibility, and like making sure that everybody feels like seen in the crowd. Because I think, creating an experience for people who spent their hard-earned money to go, buy your ticket, like, not that they should be like rewarded, but like they should get their money's worth, like they took time out of their day to like come see you. So it's like, I want to bring that like experience and make it memorable for them. Because I think, you mentioned like Flume, Louis Child, like Odessa, like I have like a visceral memory from each, like seeing them each time, and like how it was like so much of an experience. And so I just want to try and like in my own way give that back to people. And so I'm still figuring it out.
That's beautiful, man.
Thank you.
What's next for you as far as the new music? I know you said you alluded to that you're working on a new project.
Yep. So I mean, oh my gosh, I was going to say next week. That's coming up. Monday, Sunday night, flying to England I want, like, fingers crossed, wishful thinking, like, finish this next project.
Fire.
And I think, I alluded to this before, but like bolder dance music. I think that's where I'm trying to go. And I don't have like a concrete vision, like of like, okay, here are the 6 tracks that like, and here's the role that they play. It's like, how do I just make stuff that excites me, that when I play it live, it excites people? Because, going back to also like TikTok stuff, like anybody can post their music on social media.
Yeah.
It can be seen by a lot of people, but I've been granted the opportunity to step away and out of the internet and the ether and to be put in front of a live audience. And that I think is like really, really important to capitalize on that and to like have that tangibility of being able to like touch hands with somebody at a show. So that's all to say, like, I want the music to like really translate in a live setting.
It's interesting that you really kind of like formulated your sound during COVID, during lockdown and all that. And then coming out of it, how much people, we realize how much people really need that and want that. And when they going out to shows, it doesn't feel good if I don't feel like the person that I paid for doesn't see me.
Right. Like that's like, there's so many countless times where I've been to this club in San Francisco. I'm not going to name the name of the club, but like I'll just go and I'll see an artist that, I've been waiting weeks or months to see. And it just feels like I could have gone to like any other club. They could have put on like like the front of house music, and it would be the same experience because, there's no like interaction between like the DJ and the crowd. And you go out to like feel human connection. And I think that should be also coming from the person you're going to see.
Yeah.
So
I think it's just really cool to see you transfer the online presence into the real, in the IRL, and you're thriving in it, because there's a lot of people that probably might create music and put it online, but they're not really able to, or they just don't know how to yet to like connect to their fans in real life.
Yeah,
I think you're doing a great job.
Oh,
of that.
Thank you. Yeah. That's been one of like the marquee things in my mind of what what I need to work on this year, now that I have gathered an audience, a small audience, but an audience nonetheless, to like really like engage and community build. Because in person, like that's intangible.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to ask what if you had a divine alignment, where a moment in this past year where you were like, damn, I'm right, this is meant to be. Oh my
gosh. Obviously, okay, in the music sense, for sure. Like, that should probably... Divine... Oh, my God. I'm, like, trying to rack my brain. Like, there's definitely been... I mean, I think, like, the first thing that comes to mind is, like, the release of Hold You. Because that's right when, like, the whole stutter house genre was still being kind of like formulated, and it was kind of bubbling.
You're pioneering it for sure.
And I'm like, oh my God, like I just put like, I'm not gonna give away the secret sauce, but like, put like a stuttering effect on like a small vocal portion, and like, so
we don't have to like show that, but can we hear it just so like they can reference it and they can kind of thing. But what was the moment?
Okay, so I basically like, I think I made the demo as like I was just like listening to stuff that was like recently coming out, like put stuff on Steve's playlists, and like basically like trying to form my own version of that. And then Hold You came out of that, and it had like the stuttering like effect on it, and that was like the song that like kind of like lifted this project up off the ground a little bit. So I think that in my mind was like, wow, I really like threaded the needle at the right time.
Yeah.
At the right time. So that's like the kind of the first, I guess like divine alignment moment. I'm trying to think about. Yeah, because I mean that's essentially the catalyst to everything else that's happened. So I think that in my mind is like the defining divine alignment moment in the past year or so. Right. Is it this?
But it's everything. It's fresh. It's just like it connected in a crazy way online.
Right. I mean, it's just funny because I had been, funnily enough, I remember watching like a Lewis the Child tutorial where they like got like a crate of stuff. They were asked to make a beat. And I think Robbie like basically gave like a way. He was like, oh yeah, like you can use Ableton AutoPan as like an LFO tool essentially by like changing a couple of parameters. And I had been using this stuttering technique on like stuff like from 2019.
Yeah.
And I just never so this wasn't like a groundbreaking thing for me to make, I guess. Like it was something that I just like always made and just like put an emphasis on like adding it.
Yeah.
So I guess that adds more to like the divine alignment of like it really just like happened at the right time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not even, I guess that's like not even a fundamental part of the vocal. I guess, yeah, okay, maybe there it is. But yeah.
Right place, right time.
Yeah, right place, right time.
Well, I appreciate you having us.
Oh my God. Thank you for having me. This was like big fan of Free Bread, always have been.
Let's go.
So this is
big
like
supporter. We really appreciate you.
I swear to God, like literally every show that I've played, like I've worn like, I think it was either like it's always like the booty, like the one that you're wearing right now, but in white.
The cream one, yeah.
Yep. And then the
white and green.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's always either one of those two. Like my manager's just like, "Where's the free bread?" Like no, literally every
we
time.
got some new stuff coming for you for sure.
What's good? This is Angrybaby, and you are watching Free Bread.